Like with GTA 4, obviously that was the first time that they were implementing was the Euphoria engine or something. It was
Euphoria, I think it was called. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like I remember, like every car handled like an absolute brick.
Yeah.
It just so I think that was the whole point of the DLC in order to kind of combat that and get the balance right.
Yeah.
So by giving you a character that solely focuses on driving in a bike as
Mm.
opposed to a car, it was a chance to kind of fix those balancing issues, and hopefully by Gay Tony they have figured out the formula. So.
Yeah, but like I said, but you can also appreciate that like that's also the difference between the three characters. You know,
Hmm.
like I said, Nico, you can argue is kind of like okay, if you use your base of everything, you've got Johnny. I think it was Johnny, wasn't it? The biker. Like again, obviously better with motorcycles than he is going to be cars. So again, you're expecting that. And then you have Louise, who's better at cars and not bikes. So like that actually completely makes fucking sense.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, that's also like the jump up in technology as well. They actually are able to have the cars handle kind of the way they would, you know, like not every car is a resilient fucking like power horse. Like they are heavy and they're cumbersome and they're awkward and cheap and all this sort of shit. Um, like yeah, like that's the same with with racing games themselves. You know, like if you play a Gran Turismo game from the PS1, it's piss easy compared to what it is now on the PS5. The reason is because they got the technology better to make it more realistic.
Yeah.
So with GTA chasing that kind of realism almost to a fault, it completely stands to reason that the cars are going to like perhaps handle in a more cumbersome and awkward fashion. You know, um, in the same way that like and again the same way that like aiming a gun was more realistic because yeah you have to use cover, you have to duck, you have to do all these different things because it's all part of the evolution of the gameplay. Chasing it becoming more realistic or at least more complicated, intricate, whichever way you want to call it. You know,
Like,
it's why in a weird way I kind of appreciate games like this where like bah fuck stealth. There's no point doing stealth. We can't program stealth, so you better not try. No, seriously, don't. We've got nothing if you try stealth.
there. Now the lesson for this: never try.
Never try.
But like obviously you're talking about like driving related games, and I mean like Gran Turismo is one of those that stands out because they take
Hmm.
so much time to meticulously like try to recreate every single car, every
Yeah,
single
that's a bullshit.
to
By the way, just
like
on that there, the checkpoint didn't fucking
yeah, it didn't
trigger.
click.
I
Mm.
jumped over it.
Yeah, you jump
Bollocks.
you jumped over the actual like the window.
The Corona, yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking dickhead. Anyway, sorry, Foxy. Continue on.
No, but like the fact that like Gran Turismo spends like they spend years making these games,
They do
but like in
absolutely.
order to recreate them like to every spec, like to the T, and they try to give it that as authentic experience as possible.
Mm.
Like, I mean, you see it like all the cars are absolutely fucking immaculate, no matter
Yeah.
what. Like the surrounding area of the game, like fuck, basically like fuck you, that doesn't matter. This is where the
Mm.
focus is, and
Yeah.
they're right. The main focus is the cars and how they feel and how people handle them, and it's to give you that simulated experience of what that car would be like. And but what's also scary is the fact that it's recreated to a degree that people they can actually go from that if they've spent so much time with it, like
Mm.
just driving one single car, they could literally go to the real one, and if they're already an experienced driver themselves, can actually know how it handles and where
Yeah.
like the intricacies are, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
It is, and that's the joy of it of the current set of games is like again there is a genuine like academy for like people who want to become racing drivers through playing the game.
Yep.
No other game can provide that kind of that level of probability. Like for God's sake, they made a movie about it,
Hmm.
kind of way,
And
which says a lot about where they were going. But but even then, like it's like, but that's also the kind of the quandary about like chasing realism over anything else you know. um, like you got realism to a fault. Where like, is Gran Turismo the best racing game ever? Probably not. Again,
No.
you'd probably go for like Forza is probably an actual better game than Gran Turismo.
Mm.
Like pound for pound, I'd probably say the F1 games are actually better just from a gameplay point of view and mechanics and all these different things. Um, Even there was a certain point in the PS2, the PS3 era where Need for Speed, everything they were touching was solid gold.
Mm.
Like everything has their kind of their time and space. But as you said, like I think Gran Turismo has a very different philosophy that doesn't make it a game; it makes it like something else. Because the lead designer of Gran Turismo has gone on record to basically say he considers um like cars as art forms. You know, they are like genuinely parts of culture, which is true. They are. You know, like geez, we wouldn't be anywhere in the world without them to begin with. But because they are cultural things, let's say, he considers what he's doing with Gran Turismo as a way of preserving cars because he thinks in the future, like 20, 30 years, we won't be using them because of fossil fuels and so forth. So he wants to find a way to basically preserve all that work that's happened over the years. And he thinks in a video game where you could drive these cars forever and ever with no limitations, with no boundaries, as the best way to do that. And then when you start looking at like Gran Turismo through that lens, you go, oh, okay, I actually kind of see where he's going with this. Like he does, like it's not seen like we're playing it as a game, but he's playing it as like designing it for something far more broader than that. And just like that's the kind of like authorship you can only get with a Japanese anorak that loves cars. Like anyone else would be told, like don't be so stupid, just make the fucking game. You know the kind of way.
But like, even by that same token, it's because of his mindset. That's what's caused it to be such a popular like game.
Yeah, because people resonate with what he wants to do, and and again, it's the culture of it. Again, I loved little known fact about me, for example. I was in a sim racing club for a year or two, not for long now. It was a small one, but and it was mostly Need for Speed. But for the small bit of time I was on Gran Turismo in a sim racing club, like the average age of the club were like men in their 40s. They were dads, and they're all on steering wheels and so forth. Like one guy, and it was lovely. There was nothing like professional about it in a sense, but it was lovely because like they're all a bunch of like mates that all like played Call of Duty and fucking Gran Turismo. That's all they played. On their son's PlayStation. They're like their time was like around that time of night, like half 10, 11 o'clock to race a few games. One guy had Parkinson's, and like if he's having an attack, he'd park up and wait until for it to pass. It was lovely. There's something genuinely nice about it. That's where I look at like when you see like really toxic fan bases, like you always hear like fucking the Pokemon fan base is so toxic or this and that, and I look back to go, well, if you don't want that, then just go to Gran Turismo where practically everyone is Bob Ross with a steering wheel. Like, like you can't be mad at somebody. Like I remember I got a bollocking one time because I moved under braking in Gran Turismo. It was like technically, yeah, that was a bit of a dick move, but like that's a different level of argument you have there. It's like you got like like fucking 12-year-olds like saying the N-word in Call of Duty, and then I'm getting ticked off for making two defensive moves in one turn. It's like, oh come on, guys, live a little.
It's one of the things I never got about video games, because video games are meant to be fun, and you will get some games that are purposely made to make you angry.
Yeah,
like, and I get it. There's a market for like people that record content of their reactions to certain games.
yes,
And watching them either go into a tantrum or just lose it. Like, yes, it can be entertaining to a degree, but the fact that someone made a conscious decision to say like, I am making something to fuck with you. Fuck you. It's like, so what was it? Getting Over It. Like, that was a video game that was out in the last few years.
okay,
And just purpose. You are a man that's in a pot,
okay,
and you have a sledgehammer, and the idea is to use sledgehammer to launch yourself up and start climbing. And the idea is to just keep climbing. But
oh yeah, I see this game now. Yeah,
But the way the obstacles are set up is that you could very easily like knock yourself off and all the way out back to the beginning, and that's. But what really like cinches it is the fact that like the guy that made the game, he will randomly put in quotes just to infuriate you. Like, why do we fail? It's like
that's like that's very like yeah, that's a game that knows what it's doing there. That's the Schadenfreude part of it.
Yeah.
Like in the infancy of fucking YouTube playthroughs, like before you had any of these god awful fucking like reaction games that spawned a generation of PewDiePies and Markipliers, you had I Want to Be the Guy. That was the one where like that is like genuinely a fundamentally unfair game, and again that's the whole point. You know, it's designed, it's intended to be an unfair game, whichever way you want to cut it. But when you're playing it, you're going in knowing it's unfair. So the actual challenge is to try and beat the game. You know, like you kind of said there, like with games that kind of infuriate you in a sense. As like, I do get that. I do get where you're coming from with that. Because like I don't like for me, I can't get behind any of the Soulsborne games because I don't understand the premise of like of that kind of like inner sadism of you of putting yourself through that.
Yeah.
Now, I played Dark Souls. I played a bit of it. You know, I don't find it as impenetrable as some people do. But at the same token, where like when I play games to have fun, you know, I don't want to like go, well, you see, you should have jump skipped that guy on the bridge and then like wore no armor and made yourself dead. It's like, or alternatively, I could have played something nicer, you know, kind of ways. It's like there's so many options out there now. You don't have to play something that's shit and something that you're not good at. You know, you need to find that thing you're good at and just play that instead, and that's fine.
Like I can understand a game that is where it's fair. So like the difficulty does go up drastically, like at moments, but it never just not give you a way to do it.
Yeah,
like that's the difference. That's a balanced game because there's always even if it's really really difficult, there's always a way around it or a way to actually go through it.
Yeah.
So whereas other games, no. Like you said with the Souls games, like and to a degree Elden Ring and kind of like it's just
Sekiro and all.
Like they're just like Ninja Gaiden. Sorry.
Yes, that's a good example. Yeah.
That was the first example of a game where it's like I'm enjoying this. Then the boss comes along and I'm like, what the fuck? Like you can beat it, you can, but you have to have the patience to figure out the pattern. Wow, that was nice. Well, again, that type of game is not for everyone. I love the hack and slash. I love being able to like, and especially with Ninja Gaiden, it was adventure where you could actually platform as well.
Yeah.
I love that, but I hated the bosses. I just thought like, right, that's a drastic leap from like your normal enemies that are scattered around to fucking boss battle is just like up here. I'm like,
yeah,
what the fuck? I'm only a boy.
But as you said, that's the thing. Like that, you always do. Like that's what makes that's the selling point of the game as well. Then is that like there's an impossible boss here. Like again, we like you mentioned Ninja Gaiden there. Like and like there's certain games where I think like we'll set a like a point of like here's a really impossible boss, which is why like in a weird way I do appreciate like something like say the Metal Gear games having gimmicked bosses, or actually no, Zelda is another good example. Like a lot of the bosses in Zelda are gimmicks. You know, once you figure out the gimmick, you win. And again, that's kind of makes like your life easier in a sense as a gamer trying to figure out what to do. When like, because usually if you're in a temple in Zelda, the thing that you find in the temple is what you need to save the day, and it's as simple as that. You know what I mean? It's almost a trope now at this stage. But like, I think sometimes when you have a game where the boss is like stupidly unfair, either because the game hates you or it's really badly designed. Um, like for instance, on the channel we're playing a game called Rule of Rose, very obscure game from Japan. And it's probably a good thing it's staying in Japan because it's problematic. But one of the first boss in the game is basically this guy, this kind of old headmaster who's gone crazy, and he's basically all like kind of like bound up basically, and he's walking around with a golf club and he's trying to whack you away. Now the problem is your main character is like a teenage girl who's a complete coward. So like her attacking animation is her like height, like blocking herself and just swat, like feather dusting whatever weapon you have.
Mm.
So you can't tell what your hitbox is, for in terms of the whatever weapon you're using, um, your actual like target box is a massive rectangle. So even if your man swings, you still get hit, and you're nowhere near. And like I'm looking at that going like, okay, this is just a genuinely badly programmed part of the game, where like you can see the puppet strings and they're poorly made, unfortunately. So like that's one that comes across where like there's not even like there is a difficulty inherent in it, sure, but the difficulty comes from the game being like being really unfortunate in that section there, and then once you get clear that out, then it gets back to what it's actually good at, but that's also like that's still the survival horror genre as well. It's like sometimes it just throw you a gauntlet and hope you survive.
To give you actually a good example of what you're talking about, like is and you've done it on the channel as well. It was the last time I was on, which is Far Cry.
Far Cry, yeah, great
Far
example.
Cry is a
Actually,
great
yeah.
example of something that is it broken. Because the difficulty it is considered unfair.
Yeah.
Because enemies can see you like 5 miles away. It hiding in a little like fucking tree. But yeah, you can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just show up all of a sudden and it's like, what the fuck?
Like, it's a weird example of the game that punishes you for having a better PC. Because the better your draw distance is and the better your rendering is, you're like basically mean that you could be hit from the opposite side of a canyon for no reason, and you can't because you have a limitation on you, but they don't. Like, I can't remember was it in our session that we did or in another session where like there's people underwater shooting at us, but when we hit the water we have to swim. So like it's that kind of like that level of problem where like you didn't match up what you were doing, just fucking insane the way they did it. But like again, these are the things that you learn after like designing a game, and then you realize, okay, we can't do that again because that was a terrible idea. Yeah, Far Cry is an example of that. Like solely because the way they made the game, every outdoor level was a kill zone. Whereas you go into an urban area or urban or anything like that, it's perfect. It's actually a really good, thrilling, exciting action game. It's just a shame that the majority of it is set outside.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, but again, it's a perfect example of a game that is broken. The difficulty is unfair, and like you said, it punishes you for having a good computer to actually run it.
Yeah. I had that one time again. Another game we played on the channel. I did it at Liberty, by the way. I know how it looks, but I had a plan. I didn't want to keep shooting people. I want to go home and get ammo, so I killed myself to regenerate. Come on, people! Gameplay mechanics. Stop looking at me, Foxy. But yeah. So yeah, like year one of the channel, we played this puzzle game called The Seventh Guest. Really old game. It's actually technically the first FMV game. But hilariously, they fucked up the FMV so much that everyone that was blue screened in all came out like half translucent. So they all made them ghosts instead of real people. It's fucking gas. I love it. I love video games. I love the era where the ambitions were higher than the technology they could do. But so basically every room has a puzzle kind of gimmick. It's basically Fort Boyard with like a creepy old man fucking staring you out of it. So essentially you had one room where you basically had this kind of microscope gimmick. But the puzzle is essentially, you know, the game Reversey, and that kind of white and black dots thing. You kind of like
Hmm.
you flip over one white, and then it becomes two black, and you get
Yeah.
three white, and yeah, that one. So it's basically a take on that. However, they set the AI power to be the processing speed of your computer, which for 1993 when the game came out is fine because you're like playing it on an Apple III or a Windows 95. Not me with my Windows fucking 7. So I'm literally going up against I'm literally going up against Skynet here, playing fucking chess. So literally, like, the best attempt I had was the first one when I was trying to figure out the rules, because I was essentially confusing the AI enough to give myself a chance. So then, literally, the other countless times I tried, I was going like, I actually can't get through this because the computer's anticipating my moves too well. Like, it knows what I'm going to do before even I know what I'm going to do. So I can't win. And thankfully, it wasn't a mandatory puzzle, like some of them are. But holy fuck, like that would have been a hilarious way to end the playthrough, going like, well guys, I've been outsmarted by a computer. That's it. Good night, everybody. There will be no encore. You know.
Good night, Springton. There will be no encore.
Like even on the Sierra series that we do, like some of the cutscenes are set to the processing speed of the game. So actually, we had this on the game gallery with Shadow of the Comets, where some cutscenes would just like fucking zip past them because the speed of it is set to how much the computer can process. So because it's running on DOSBox and it's set to, you know, whatever speed you can do it at, some cutscenes will literally just fly through because it can, as opposed to it can't what it's supposed to be set to. But yeah, that was fun. Like, see, yeah, so certain games like that, just when you see old games showing their age, it can be very amusing sometimes.
I'm trying to think what would be another example of games like growing up that like just seemed actually like was it not necessarily the whole game, but like there would always be some games that have probably a particular level that will stand out in everyone's mind, and they just be like insanely difficult. So like